Good morning to all viewers. My name is Hector Richard, and today we will talk about the central nervous system. The central nervous system, or CNS, is the part of the nervous system consisting primarily of the brain and spinal cord. The three broad functions of the CNS are to take in sensory information, process information, and send out motor signals. Related to the central nervous system structure, the CNS has three main components: the brain, the spinal cord, and the neurons or nerve cells. Each part of the CNS plays an important role in how the body functions, and the three components of the CNS work together to take in information and control how the body responds. So, let's take a look to some main structures. The first structure is the brain. The brain controls many of the body functions, including sensation, thought, movement, awareness, and memory. The surface of the brain is known as the cerebral cortex. The surface of the cortex appears bumpy thanks to the grooves and folds to the tissue. Each groove is known as a sulcus, while each bump is known as a gyrus. The largest part of the brain is known as the cerebrum, and is responsible for the functions such as memory, speech, voluntary behaviors, and thought. The cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. The brain's right hemisphere controls movement on the body's left side, while the left hemisphere controls movements of the body's right side. While some functions do tend to be lateralized, researchers have found that there are not left-brained or right-brained thinkers, as the whole each hemisphere of the brain is then divided into four interconnected lobes. Frontal lobes are associated with higher cognition, voluntary movements, and language. Occipital lobes are associated with visual processes. Parietal lobes are associated with processing sensory information. Temporal lobes are associated with hearing and interpreting sounds as well as the information of the memories. Other important areas of the brain include the basal ganglia, cerebellum, Broca's area, corpus callosum, medulla oblongata, hypothalamus, thalamus, and amygdala. Second, we find the spinal cord. The spinal cord connects to the brain via the brain stem and then runs down through the spinal canal, located inside the vertebra. The spinal cord carries information from various parts of the body to and from the brain. While it varies from one individual to the next, the spinal cord is about inches in length. At the brainstem, 31 spinal nerves enter into the spinal cord. The nerve of the spinal cord consists of 8 cervical nerves, 12 thoracic nerves, 5 lumbar nerves, 5 sacral nerves, and 1 coccygeal nerve. Another important structure of the CNS are the neurons. Neurons are building blocks of the central nervous system. Billions of these nerve cells can be found throughout the body and communicate with one another to produce physical response and actions. Most neurons are divided into 3 basic sections: dendrites, cell body, and axon. These 3 cells also define terms of functions. The 3 types of neurons are afferent neurons, efferent neurons, are interneurons. Efferent neurons are motor neurons that carry signals from the brain to the peripheral nervous system. Afferent nerves are sensory nerves that bring information from the sense to the brain. Interneurons are association neurons that connect efferent and efferent neurons to the central nervous system. By the way, because the CNS is so important to our body, it has certain protective structures. First, the entire CNS is enclosed in bone. The brain is protected by the skull. The spinal cord is encased by the vertebrae that make up the spinal column. The brain and the spinal cord are both covered with a protective tissue known as meninges, and the entire CNS is also immersed in a substance known as cerebrospinal fluid, which forms a chemical environment to allow nerve fibers to transmit information effectively, as well as offering yet another layer of protection from potential damage. Now, I will announce you some common diseases that can affect the CNS. It's important to say that a single damage on the CNS can produce any immediately critical effect on the life of the patient. Some typical diseases are tumors, degenerative disease such as Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, some kinds of infections like meningitis or trauma. Finally, let's take a look into the most common medical device used in neurological clinical practices, and this is the electroencephalogram. The electroencephalogram, or EEG, is a medical device that is used to measure the electrical activity of the brain using a small metal disc called electrodes attached to the scalp. Brain cells communicate via electrical impulse and are active all the time, even during sleep. This activity shows up the wavelength of an EEG recording. An EEG can find changes in a brain activity that might be useful in diagnosing brain disorders, especially epilepsy or another seizure disorder. An EEG might also be helpful for diagnosing or treating brain tumors, brain damage from a head injury, stroke, etc.